All right, good morning, everyone. Have your weights nearby. I have a weights strap and my cardio equipment and my mat. So we will get going here. There we are, flipping through my screens here, looking at to see that everything looks okay for when we go to the mat in a little bit here. All right, all good. Welcome to another installation of Mindful Strength. And there we go. I think that's better. Mindful Cardio. All right. Glasses off. Have not as much room as I'd like over there. Getting your watch set up so you know um, what your heart rate is. That's ideal if you can work with that. So we get into that level two, we know where we're at. And welcome. We're going to do a little bit on sleep again. I've been talking about sleep and the benefits obviously are extensive, and we've done a couple classes already. I think this might be sleep part four, actually. And I told in previous classes where I'm getting some of that information, podcasting, and with the author of the book Why We Sleep, um, and just kind of doing some other research on online. So let's work with that. And we're going to work with a little bit also of our perceived exertion. So it is really helpful if you can have go ahead and get started with your cardio. But it's really good if you can have your heart rate monitor or, um, stop and do the 15-second count your heart rate and do the multiplying. So you not kind of know where you are. And if you've let that go off, um, into the nethers for a while, I've done that as well. Like not been paying attention to it, and I needed to go back and look at the data again and say, well, where should I be? And they've got those charts online for your age. Um, and then if you want to get more specific, you need to know what is your resting heart rate, and what is your max heart rate, and you need to do a little bit of um, exploration of that, or go into um, a place where you can get that tested for you. If you've done a stress test, maybe you have some of that information. What's my max heart rate? And that sometimes is a moving target, right? So, anyway, we want to be um, coming into our body here, coming into connecting mind and body. So, let's do that. Let's start to bring our attention, just as we would in a yoga class, maybe a Pilates class, to feeling our feet. Maybe they're in shoes, socks. Maybe you're barefoot. Are my socks on still? It's going to get warm this week here where I am, but today, not so much yet. And I did a little running already just to get back from somewhere. So, getting moving and also trying to stay in the body. So, feeling my feet as they touch that, and noticing that I'm above my resting heart rate, not quite into my zone two, pretty solid in that zone one. Starting out noticing the breath. Breath is changing a little bit. I have to talk while I move. Noticing the sensations in the body. How do my joints feel? How's my head today at this moment in my day? Do I feel clear? Do I feel foggy, lethargic? Talking to another student the other day, talking about cardio, and she said she's really enjoying doing 10Ks, things like that. And I said, "Oh, some people don't really enjoy cardio." And she said, "No one wants to do it." And I thought that was interesting. I think there are people who like to do it, but there are a lot of us who we resist getting up off the couch, getting up in the morning to do our cardio. So start getting into that zone two. Again, if you need to, I'm still at that same number I was at. So either my watch hasn't given a new reading, which is very possible, or I'm not really moving any faster yet. I'll have to move a little faster to get that workout in or even pick up my weights. So if you're doing the same thing, you've got a stair, you might have to keep your arms up and moving. You might have to grab your weights. I'm also only on one riser. That would make a difference. If I had to go up a little bit higher, might make a difference for my exertion. So we're going to keep coming back to this idea of perceived exertion today, like noticing those um, key components of what we think we're doing. So, or what we notice is happening while we exercise. So my breath is changing. That'd be one. I might feel tired. That'd be another. And maybe I'm going to start to feel sweaty. These are all ways that we gather in whether we're working, right? And how much we're working. But we want to compare that with our heart rate zone. And the cool thing about the heart rate zone is it moves with our condition of the day, with how much we've slept, with whether we're fighting illness. And the heart rate will do different things for those occasions, and it'll show up differently in our workout, which is why it's kind of cool to have that technology. Those straps around the midsection are best still, and yet having something on our wrist, even if it's not as accurate as we'd like at the moment, um, is better than none. Good. Sensing your body, maybe the hands on handlebars if you're rowing, you're on the bike, you've got weights in your hands, sensing the texture of those weights, the weight in your arms. Why we sleep. Number four, sleep better. So, what are the ways that we've talked a lot about the detriments of not having enough sleep. And I wanted today to be about what do we do to reclaim our sleep, to sleep better. And a lot of these you may know. Just give you a nice reminder. So, the number one is regularity. Same time to bed, the same time to wake up is really good for us. And I wish I could say I've done a good job of that this last week. Not so much. I had an event that kind of threw me off. Then sometimes you get going on something, you go past that bedtime. And so begin again, begin again. So tonight, can I get back to what I think is the best time for me to go to bed and to get up? And that might not be the same for you. So investigate that. Sleep as much as you can in those regular hours that you know you feel the best when you wake up. If you go to bed at 10 and get up at 6, is that your best time? A lot of the Instagram posts talk about you have to get up at 5, and I'm resistant to repost that now because some people, it's the best time to get up. Other people, it's not the best time to get up. They go to bed later, they tend to wanna sleep a little bit more in the morning, even if it's 6 or 6:30, 7. Some people, 5 AM is gonna be really great. They go to bed by 9. Yeah. So regularity, hitting that mark more than you're not hitting it is gonna really benefit you. Anchor your sleep, and you improve that quality and quantity. So as you continuously go to bed at that time, you're also better chances of having good quality sleep and more of it. So when I go to bed too late, a lot of times I wake up at the same time. So my quantity is down. And if I look at my sleep app, maybe the quality is down too. Maybe I didn't get as much of some of the other pieces, as much REM sleep. Certainly, I didn't get as much core sleep. How are we doing? Let's check in with zone two. Are you in your zone two? Let's notice those, how we perceive our effort, those, the breathing. Are we breathing a little bit more than we would at resting? Maybe even more today for some reason. Are we starting to feel any sweat? Is there a sense of fatigue or having to push? And just notice, relaxing in the forehead, encouraging a grin from within, a grin inside the mouth, even if it's not a big smile. We don't need to fake it, just relaxing the mouth that way. Heart rate, perceived exertion. Where, what does zone two feel like today? This is probably going to get me better into that zone two for me. Might spend a little more time in zone one when I'm teaching. Number two, we said regularity is number one to sleep better. Number two is having that wind down routine. Thinking about landing the plane. You know, Scott uses that with mindful cardio sometimes when we're getting done with the cardio portion. He says, bring it in for a landing, right? And the end of your day, similar. What are the things we do and do quite regularly to wind down? Signals to the body, it's time to rest. Bath, shower, stretching or light body movement, meditation, reading. 1 to 2 hours before bed, maybe you do your to-do list for tomorrow. You get all of that put down on paper so that it doesn't have to take up real estate anymore in the brain. Not today. for tomorrow, these are the things I hope to remember. A lot of times when I sit down to meditate, those are some of the things that come in. So maybe before meditation, I think of those, get them out of my head. I've got them on paper. Or if you have concerns, maybe it's a list of concerns, worries, and those go on a piece of paper before bed. A couple hours is nice before that meditation. So you can spend time relaxing, paying attention. Now I'm in that zone too. Needed the weights. Also perceiving zone two, heart rate, breathing rate, warmth in the body, bordering on dewiness, feeling dewy, not quite sweating. Sweat doesn't come easily sometimes. Number three, keeping your bedroom cool. I don't have all the data on this, but there's your temperature in your body goes up and down throughout the day, and at night we need it to go down, and so it just helps to not be in a hot space. 68 is the recommendation. I've slept in much colder rooms probably most of my life just because I'm in older homes. Keeping the bedroom cool. One, let's see, how am I doing? Zone two, noticing the weight in my hands, texture of whatever my hands are touching, texture of what my feet are touching, even through the socks. There are grooves on this step so that I don't slip, and feel those. Land. And if I were on my bike, I'd be thinking about that whole rotation of my foot. Pedal pushes, but it also, if we have a foot cage or if we have the shoes that click in, we can pull up as well. It's really nice. Nice way to get more bang for your buck riding the bike. And rowing, ooh, so nice. We get so much arm and leg get to work. There's a lot of places we could put our attention. Bring your attention softly to somewhere in the body. Oh, if we want to continue on our talk about sleep, we want to reclaim sleep, thinking in more broad terms of our whole culture, society reclaiming that sleep. We could appreciate that we all have this chronotype. That's that you and I maybe don't have to get up at the same time every day. We don't have to go to bed at the same time. That we all have that best window. If we don't embrace that as a society, we have that pernicious erosion of sleep time. So we really need to honor, right, that people need more sleep and as a general rule. And the catastrophic effect of the to our health, to the education I talked about in the last session, to our productivity. We think we're being more productive, driven by caffeine and the ups and downs of caffeine or sugar, and safety. Really, how safe are we doing our jobs? Are we driving if we're not sleeping enough? Can we become ambassadors of sleep? I've got a ways to go, but I'm willing to work on it. Willing to see what does that personal survey look like, right? If I'm going to do a test out of curiosity, if I'm going to do some research on myself, what if I went to bed regularly, got up regularly at the same time? Kids and other things mess with that, but there's a lot I can control. Starting to feel that heart rate. Let's check in. How are we doing with the heart rate versus our perceived exertion? Can you tell if you're working a little bit harder? And is your heart rate up too? Or does it feel like you're working harder than your heart rate shows? Let's settle in. Checking the heart rate either manually, 15 seconds, multiply by 4 to get your heart rate. First, you got to know where those heart rates are best for you. My heart rate zone isn't going to be the same as yours unless we're pretty near the same age and maybe same physical fitness. And even then, lots of differences in the bodies. That's why it's kind of a nice marker. One was regularity, get into bed. Two was your wind down routine. Three was keep things cool. And then how can we reclaim this as a society? Do you remember a time when sleep was a little more regular for everyone? And somewhere did that go off the rails? And how do we get it to come back a little bit better, a little bit more toward reasonable and regular? How do we try to influence that? Weights down for a little bit, see what happens. We're getting there. A couple more minutes here in our cardio to get in that half an hour, pretty close to our half an hour of movement, just moving the body. And also staying mindful. We're hearing something about some information about sleep, but ultimately coming back, staying here, trying to be present. Even if what we're doing is somewhat monotonous, maybe even because it is, we have an opportunity for stillness in the mind or for curiosity in the mind. What's going on up there? what do we find ourselves going off to think about? Maybe we're thinking about that sleep topic. Maybe we're thinking about that thing we're having to do later, what the next meal looks like, the next um, rest period looks like. Noticing the body. Remember how we took that? Can we find somewhere in the body to stick with for a little while softly? You don't have to focus hard, just maybe it's a knee, maybe it's a shoulder, maybe it's the forehead. Maybe you are often holding a lot of tension between the eyes. Maybe you could soften. Heart rate's going down for me because I took those weights out of the picture. I might work a little bit faster just to see what happens. Perceived effort. I'm in zone two. I have those signs, warmth in the body, no longer cold in the room, just right. A little damp. Zone two doesn't usually make me, unless I'm continuing on past these 30 minutes, not too dripping. But you might be. Everyone has a different system that way. Heart rate and perceived exertion. Good. All right, we just have a few more minutes, maybe 2 minutes, unless you've got your timer going and you made it to 30. Maybe you're slowing down a little bit right now to land the plane. Slowing it down to land the plane. Or maybe you like to finish on a real strong little sprint at the end. Maybe that heart rate goes up just for a minute here at the end. Up to you. You can watch it. You can start to pedal faster. You can row faster. Maybe you count 10 or 15 rows. And they're just faster than you've been doing. Noticing the body as we come into land. Planning our sleep for the night. What time is that ideal bedtime? How do we start planning now for that bedtime? We know it's on the calendar. We have, most of us, quite a bit of flexibility in that. And what are we doing 1 or 2 hours before bed? I know this is probably what catches me the most. Saying, okay, it's 8, it's 7:30. Time for me to start this routine of buttoning up the day, maybe making that list for tomorrow, meditation, reading. Maybe we're even reading um, maybe some fiction, maybe something spiritual, maybe some poetry. All right, let's bring that into land. We're good. I have a hair that's been tickling me. I think it's gone now. That's what I've been grabbing for. Okay, so coming off of your equipment, if you've had shoes on, take them off. And then we'll have our weights. I think we're going to start on our feet and probably going to keep that heart rate up just a little bit because of adding in a little bit of strength here to our cardio. So coming to a nice standing position, feet underneath the hips or a little broader actually than my hips. And I'm gonna hold on to some weights. If you don't have any weights, that's no problem. You can do what we're doing without weights. And I'm gonna start by spreading out the toes, especially if they've been in some shoes. And I'm gonna bring the shins forward, hips down, and come back up. Shins forward and back up, down and up. Regular old squats, down and up. And you could do this with a hand at the wall if your balance is feeling off. You could have a chair that you're trying to reach your seat down to, like we've done in the past. A few weeks ago, or a couple classes ago, I did a bunch of squatting. Maybe that was in the Pilates and strength class. We did a whole bunch of work with squatting. Good. 3, 2, 1. All right, come on up. Let's bring those weights up. It is great if you can have some weights for this. If you don't have any weights, you can use your strap. You can use that strap pulling like this. You're going to pull the strap and you're going to do your bicep curls with that pull. If you've got weights, it's a little more akin to a little more friendly for doing bicep curls. So let's do those. Good. So some of the things that you might do if your weights are really light, you're going to want to squeeze a little more at the top. Squeeze and lower. Squeeze and lower. And what I see when people have heavier weights is they let go really quickly here. See if you can fine tune the lengthening of that muscle. Squeeze, lengthening, squeeze, lengthening, and still have control of that weight. Control of that weight going down just as much as I do coming up. Control. Let's do 2 more here. And lighter weights, you could probably do more, just depends on the weight everybody has. Right. Good. Okay, now let's take the weight forward and we'll work a little bit more with core and, believe it or not, the back of our legs. So as we tip forward, we really rely on, and some people rely too much on their low back for this, but we really rely on our backside and our hamstrings and maybe down the legs even to the calves for this strength to come back up. So let's everybody find our belly, pull the belly in. So we're already supporting the low back. Soften the knees. And now we're going to come forward, nice straight spine. Knees have just a teeny tiny bend. And I'm going to come forward until I start to feel like, no, I'm going to really have to start to round a lot more. Come forward just that far and now come upward. And if you can, just take a little peek at what's going on in my legs as I go forward. Belly helps. Come forward. Forward. Again, we're lengthening as we go down here, aren't we? Length in the hamstrings. And as we come up, we're really doing that hamstring curl. Hamstrings are going to help out. And I try to use hamstrings a little more than I feel all glute. So if you're really squeezing your buns all the time, your seat is really squeezing. See if you can let go in your seat a little bit. Allow your legs to help you. Your legs are really strong. Belly pulls in to help the back and coming up. Sometimes I notice I start to really grip in my feet, so careful. I'm going to relax my feet, my toes especially. Good. All right, let's take those weights up and let's push them up overhead, up. We're just going to do a few. Good. Let's do three more. Three, two, one. Nice. All right. Let's do a little more of this work that we were working with the legs. I'm going to change it up just a little bit. Yeah. What happens if we take our seat back a little bit more, our knees bent a little more, and we reach down? And maybe those weights come down just a little more, a little rounded in my low back. But as I come up, belly, 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 come up to straight legs. Bend a little bit, come forward, come all the way up straight. Bend everything. Maybe the weights are coming down toward the floor a little more than last time. Bend, core all the way up. Relax the toes. Bend. Bend. Let's do two more. Bending, kind of feeling those joints bend, right? The hips bending, the knees bending, ankles, getting the weights a little closer to the floor. They don't have to touch. Coming up nice and tall. Good. All right. Triceps? You bet. Let's do some triceps. My favorite way to really dial in the triceps, elbows at the side body. So when we pull back, the shoulders come back too. Elbows at the sides. Push. Elbows just stay right where you put them. Shoulder blades stay right where you put them. The forearm, wrist, and hand swing. Actually, we don't want them to swing too much, but that's what moves, right? Just like the biceps, we don't want to swing too quickly forward. Stretch out, that's hard. Stretch out, not too much swing. Stretch out, not too much swing. Let's do three and two and one and come on up. All right. Hope that felt good for you. Take a wide stride. My time. Good. Good. We're going to do some sumo. We're going to let those weights come down in the center. Down, push, down, push, down. Have you checked your heart rate lately? What has this work been like for your heart? Perceived effort? Is it more than zone two? And is the zone though actually still in zone two? So it might feel like we're working harder than zone two. And maybe we are. But what does your heart rate say? Oh, mine's up there now from doing this. Down, right in zone two. I'm going to keep it in zone two. Good. Come back to feet underneath you. All right. Check your heart rate out. Is it following your perception? Well, mine's a little bit up. We're working arms and legs together. We're working the big skeletal muscles. Mine was up. I'm just going to do a little bit of less movement here for the moment and see what happens after a few, maybe a minute or two. Let that other arm come across, soft knees. Let the weights drag you down to the side. Let the knees have all the bend. Drag yourself back up, and you can watch if you'd like. I'm going to bring the shoulder back onto the body here, and then I'm going to tip to the other side. It feels nice to do a little tip. Your feet could be further apart if you'd like. Bring that shoulder across, soften the knees, pull the weight back up, bring that shoulder back into place. Another one on that side. Across. Maybe you want to straighten that outside leg just to play around with it. Maybe it stays bent. Coming back up. One more time. Tipping over. Core is helping here. All the way down. Core is helping. A little bit of reach or drop with that hand. Maybe that other leg straightens just a little bit. What happens if we straighten a little? And then nice solid pull back up. All right. Where's your heart rate? Still up there? Is it more than that zone two? Is it settled in zone two, or did it come down with that different movement, right? And yet my perception is that I'm really getting warm now. The body is still trying to cool off, but I'm not actually in zone two anymore for myself, right? So just kind of paying attention. It's fun to watch. All right, so let's take ourselves into that um, big sumo pose again. And we're going to take those weights down. And you can watch one of these if you haven't done a class with me for a while and you're just jumping in. I'm going to take the weights down, but I'm going to let my hips come up. A little bit of stretch for the legs. They don't have to be straight though. Then I'm going to bring the hips back down. I'm going to bring a weight up, another weight up. Then I'm going to push up all the way overhead here, coming down, all the way down. I'm going to bring the weights down, the hips up, the hips down, weight, weight, push all the way up, come down, bring those weights down, lift the hips, lower the hips, bring a different side up each time if you can remember what you did last time, and back down. So you can alternate which fist goes up first. And you can do this without weights, right? Up and down here, weight, weight, up. Let's see if we can do two more. Lift, lower, and hand, push. Down we go. Hips come up, hips come down, hand, hand, push. Very nice. Where's your heart rate? At that rate, everybody will have a different answer at that rate of movement. Perception, heart rate's going. Perception, I'm pretty warm. Maybe it's a little higher than my zone two, just a titch. But the nice thing about weightlifting is you kind of go in and out of that, right? All right. So let's see here. Let's bring it down. Feels like a good place to need to I need a towel for my hands. Got pretty warm in here. It's sticky. It's a sticky day. So let's come down to the mat. Are right on schedule. And all the way down. And we have that opportunity to perceive the body again. Perceive if we're gripping in the forehead. Perceive how warm the body is. Perceive if we're sweating. Perceive our heart rate and our respiratory rate. And we can even gather that data. Maybe you're not counting how many breaths per minute, but your heart rate is definitely being recorded. Good. So let's bring our hands behind our head, elbows up. We don't want to miss out on an opportunity to fine tune our core. That so much helps with our posture. Elbows come in. Exhale, lift the head to hovering, let the head be heavy, and see how far you can lift those shoulders and shoulder blades away from the mat. In the process, we get a nice um, flexion of the upper vertebrae here. I'm not pulling on my neck so much though, or trying to bring my chin to my chest. I'm still wanting my head to be heavy in the hands. Let's bring the knees up. Knees over the hips. Holding here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. One leg comes down. The other leg comes down, slowly lowering back. Relaxing the elbows out. Elbows coming back in. Exhale. Knees coming up. This time I'm gonna bring one hand behind one leg, the other hand behind the other leg. Elbows are gonna reach out. I'm really gonna use my upper body muscles in the arms to pull myself up some more, noticing how far I can get those shoulder blades off the mat. And then I'm gonna let go a little bit here instead of pulling so much. I'm gonna see if I can hold that there with the belly muscles. Maybe even taking the hands away. 3, 2, 1. Coming down and lowering back. If you need to, smoothing out the front of the body. If you have it accessible, check in with your heart rate. What does mini crunch look like for your heart rate today? Mine bumped up a little bit. Not quite in, not into any zone 2, but I'm bumped up. All right. Let's take that into a little bit of tree pose, just because it's a nice, fun one to do. Take one leg long, take the other leg and bring your hands behind the leg. And let's just do a little bit of reach up, toes pointing, heel comes down. Reach up, toes point. Get really nice and straight if you can. Heels come down. Point the toes up, heel comes down. Now take the heel up. Leave that heel reaching for a moment, just a few seconds. Then let the foot come down, relaxing the heel. Heel reaches up, relax. Heel reaches up, relax. Bending the knee. Heel reaches up, bending the knee. Good. Now, with all of that done, let's lift the head, looking toward that thigh, hanging on to the back of the leg, elbows out just like we did. And this time I'm going to use that leg a little bit so you can see that you can move your knee in and out. Bring that knee out into the hands to help you. Hands are going to pull onto that knee. Belly is going to help you find your way upward, up over that pelvic ridge back here best you can. And maybe you're climbing up that leg. Or if the knee is bent, that's fine. You could reach that leg out this way as well, rather than upward. And then back. Can we control it on the way back? Nicely rolling back down. Good. 2 more like that. I'm going to have the hands behind the leg, elbows out. I'm going to use that leg to help. Belly still is really working. Crawl up the leg, maybe point the toes, crawl back down the tree of the leg there, all the way back down. One more, crawling up and back down. Other side. Toes up, reach, relax the heel down. Toes up, relax. Toes up and relax. Toes, reach up at the top. Wiggle those toes even though they're all reaching up. Then relax the foot down. One more time, reaching, toes, reaching, relax the foot. Now take the heel up. Pause with that heel up there and relax. Heel up, pause, and down. Heel up and relax. Heel and bend the knee. One more time, heel reaching up. Ooh, and relax. Good. Now that knee could be bent a lot. It can be somewhere in between here. Gonna grab onto the back of the leg, lift the upper body, use that knee as a lever, right? So the thigh bone reaching out helps me, pulls me up a little bit along with the core. Up, softly coming back, up, reaching up, crawling back down. What does tree do? Pretty much in the same place I was with mini crunch. All right. Good. Let's end with a little bit of bridge pose. Tucking your shoulders underneath you, shoulder blades tucking in underneath you, feet on the floor. Noticing the back here, maybe even taking knees side to side to feel the sacrum, the low back, mid back. And then how we're going to, so let's work with a more undulating back. So this time we're going to take the low back to the floor, belly button is going to come down until we're lifting. We start to feel the pelvis lift. And we're going to slowly peel up, peeling up into bridge pose. This can be a 90% bridge pose, doesn't have to be all the way up. And then lowering back down, vertebra by vertebra. We want to feel each part of the back meeting the floor. Low back, finally, that pelvic ridge, the sacrum, and relaxing. Well, let's take that the other direction again. Pulling down the belly button, the tail starts to come up. You might go whizzing past the low back. See if you can stay there just a little bit, noticing low back was pushed down briefly, mid back was down, and then we're lifting it up, pushing down through the feet to come up. Breath here, keeping our vision toward the ceiling, keeping our knees going straight ahead, and then gradually letting each piece of the spine come down again. Relaxing the tail once you come down. Drawing the knees in. You can hold on to the legs. Taking a few breaths here. See if you can take those deeper. One more deep breath. And then either bringing the feet to the floor. I like to separate the feet and let the knees come together. Or if you'd rather, you could come up to seated in a chair or seated on the floor to finish. Our last check in of our perceived effort. Scanning the body for markers of maybe where we're feeling still some energy, maybe where other sensations of good or bad sensations, whatever you might label them, but sensations nonetheless, just noticing the temperature of the body. Where's your heart rate? How's your heart rate feel in the body? Is it beating hard, fast, medium? Has it slowed down quite a bit? What about your respiratory rate? Is that, if we just let it be, whatever the breath wants to do, where does it land? Noticing in the mind. We can catch any of the thought, where the mind is going, what it's doing, and maybe just bringing it back to noticing the heart rate or noticing the breath. And then, as you're ready, let's roll to one side. If you're not already seated, coming to one side and gradually pushing yourself up to seated. Yes, I think it's time to end. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Hope that you are feeling like you did some nice cardio, mindful cardio. That's what the point of our teaching here is. And you'll let me know if you have any questions and or comments through Spring Pilates or through one of my channels. Have a great day, everybody.